Halloween has a way of lowering people's guard. Doors are left unlocked. Strangers are welcomed without question. Masks make it easier to hide intentions. And when something feels off, it's easy to explain it away as part of the night. These are three true Halloween stories from people who learned that some things don't need costumes to be terrifying. The first story was shared by a man who says Halloween night changed the way he looks at front doors forever. He was 16 and babysitting his younger sister while their parents went to a party across town. They lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood where Halloween was a big deal. Decorations everywhere. Kids running around until late. It felt safe. Around 8 p.m., there was a knock at the door. He assumed it was more trick-or-treaters and opened it without thinking. But no one was there. He stepped onto the porch and looked around. Empty sidewalk. A few houses down, kids were still laughing and running between homes. He shrugged it off and went back inside. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. This time, when he opened the door, there were two kids standing there. Normal costumes, plastic pumpkins. He gave them candy and watched them walk away. As he closed the door, something caught his attention. The porch light flickered. That's when he noticed muddy footprints leading up to the door. Large ones, bigger than any kid's shoes. They hadn't been there earlier. He locked the door and told himself it was probably just leftover from the rain earlier that week. Still, the feeling stuck with him. At 9:12 p.m., the doorbell rang again. He didn't answer it. Instead, he looked through the peephole. There was a person standing extremely close to the door, too close for the peephole to show their face. All he could see was a dark hoodie and the top of a mask. The mask wasn't a costume mask. It was plain, white, expressionless. The doorbell rang again and again. Then the knocking started. Slow, deliberate. His sister asked who it was. He told her to stay in her room and lock the door. The knocking stopped. For a few seconds, everything was silent. Then he heard something worse. Scratching. Not at the door, at the side of the house. Slow, dragging sounds moving along the wall toward a window. He grabbed his phone and called his parents, whispering into it as he watched the side window. A shape moved past it. Tall. Too tall to be a kid. By the time police arrived, the footprints were gone. No mask, no sign of anyone. But for the rest of the night, muddy handprints appeared on the outside of the windows. The second story comes from a woman who worked at a haunted house attraction during college. She'd been hired to play a background character. No speaking role, just standing in dark corners and jumping out at people. The attraction was set up inside an abandoned warehouse that had been temporarily converted for Halloween. On her third night working there, she noticed something strange. There was a man walking through the attraction alone. No costume, no glow sticks, no reaction to the scares. She saw him multiple times throughout the night, always appearing in places guests shouldn't be able to reach so quickly. He never screamed, never laughed. He just watched. At one point, she caught his eye while hiding behind a wall. He smiled at her, not a playful smile, something colder. She reported him to a supervisor, but when they checked the cameras, he wasn't there. According to the footage, no one matching his description had entered alone. Later that night, while standing in her assigned spot, she heard someone whisper her name. She froze. The voice came from directly behind her. She spun around, expecting to see another actor. Instead, it was the man, standing inches away. He leaned in and whispered, "You're really good at pretending to be scared." Before she could react, a group of guests walked through and he disappeared into the darkness. She quit the job the next day. Weeks later, she found a photo slipped under her dorm door. It was a picture of her, standing in her spot at the haunted house, taken from behind. The third story happened on Halloween night and still hasn't been fully explained. It comes from a couple who lived in a rural area where trick-or-treaters were rare. That year, they decided to leave a bowl of candy on the porch and spend the night watching movies. Around 11 p.m., they heard movement outside. They checked the security camera on their phone. A person stood on their porch, no costume, no bag, just standing there staring directly into the camera. They watched for several minutes, confused. The person didn't move, didn't knock, didn't reach for the candy. The husband opened the front door and called out. The porch was empty. They checked the camera footage again. The figure never left. At exactly 11:23 p.m., the camera cut to static for 4 seconds. When the feed returned, the porch was empty. The next morning, they found the candy bowl overturned, and written on the porch in dirt were the words, "Next year." Halloween makes people feel brave. It makes strangers seem harmless, makes fear feel like part of the fun. But sometimes the scariest things don't dress up at all, and they don't leave when the night ends.